Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
You've been waiting all year, and the moment is finally here. Boll & Branch is the bedding brand for better sleep, and their best sale of the year is happening now. Right now, you can get 25% off the organic cotton sheets loved by millions of sleepers. They feel breathable, luxuriously soft, and get softer with every wash. Shop Boll & Branch's cyber event with extended returns for the holiday season. Hurry to bollandbranch.com and use code BUTTERY for 25% off everything. Limited time only. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Hello and welcome to Just Films and That, with me, Josh Hallam.
And me, Alice Oliver. This is the podcast where we talk about films that we think are underrated, underappreciated, or we just wanted to talk about them.
We're also going to get stuck into some classic films that one of us maybe hasn't seen, and maybe throw in some great guests along the way. Hello and welcome to Just Films and That, the podcast where we discuss films that we feel may be underrated, underappreciated, or we just wanted to talk about them. I'm Josh Hallam, and I'm here with Alice Oliver. Alice, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Josh, and yourself?
I'm very excited because we're joined by our very special guest. He's a comedian, he's a writer, he's a Twitterer. Jake Lambert, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm very excited to have you on.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So we always start with a random question. So I'll ask Alice first so you get the idea. So Alice, what is the best fast food place? And I'm talking traditional. So like, it's got to have a drive-through. And like, no, it doesn't have to have a drive-through, but like, you know, when people say like Pizza Hut's not a fast food place.
No, I guess not. But I mean, I was going to say Subway, but I'm pretty sure they don't do drive-throughs. But
they do.
General, they do. You've been to a drive-through Subway? Yeah, so you can
get drive-through Subways. I've never been to one, but I know they do them because I've always had this image of like a drive-through with a big, massive, long salad counter, and like you just kind of edging along in your car, being like lettuce, tomato, cucumber, onions. So is Subway your answer?
It is Subway. I mean, I try to avoid fast foods as much as I can, to be honest. But if I'm going to go for it, it's usually just like a salad, foot long, pretty much. Just all the salad, as much as you can get in there, and as many olives as you could wish. I know. Some people ain't so keen. But yeah, sometimes they put maximum effort in, and I get like just basically an olive loaf. But yeah, probably Subway.
Foot long olive, please. Jake, what about you?
Well, can I just firstly slam Alice's choice? Didn't Ireland recently say that Subway is officially cake? It's that bad.
They did, yes, because of the sugar content in the bread, yes. So not technically a sandwich, it's just an olive cake.
An olive cake. Lovely. I think mine would have to just be the king. It would just have to be McDonald's.
You say Burger King then.
Even more of a slam on Burger King that I've claimed that McDonald's are the king. I just think it's impossible to argue.
What do you get when you go?
Well, do you know what? I can't actually eat red meat, so I love getting the chicken selects. Mm-hmm. On a drive back from a gig. And I'll go in usually with another comedian. It's quite a nice thing to do. When one of you suggests it, it's a lot better if the other person does because you feel less guilty. And then I get 5 chicken selects, and then what I've got some blue tack in my car. So I've got blue tack on my dashboard, so I can connect the ketchup to my dashboard, so I can just have the chicken selects on my lap, dip them in. But I don't eat 5. I eat 4. And then I throw one out the window into the bush side for an animal to find and have a treat.
Very generous of you. What do you get to drink?
I just get a tea. Because
tea?
Yeah, because I love PG Tips, and McDonald's have a contract with PG Tips, as does Subway. So you can always get a good cup of tea, because Starbucks, if you go to like a service station, Starbucks have awful tea. It tastes like flowers. It's even their regular tea. So what you can do is you can go to McDonald's, you order the tea from there, but they do the milk in the rubbish sachets. So you go over to Starbucks and take their milk from the actual pourer. And that's my little life hack for you. You're welcome.
You've worked out the service station system there, haven't you?
1-0 to Lambert.
I can't believe you get a cup of tea and not like a lemonade or a Coke or something.
Nah, well, it's usually late at night. It's just a nice little treat.
Yeah.
I love a cup of tea. So just have a cup of tea as you're driving home, podcast on. But I've got an automatic as well. So it means that I don't have to do any of the work. So I can really sit back and enjoy it.
Enjoy your 4 selects and pour one select out for your homies.
Just doing my bit. 3's not enough, 5's too much. So 4 for me, 1 for them.
I like this idea. It's like certain bits of the motorway. There's just small piles of chicken selects. Anyway, we'll move on to talking about this week's film, which is The Butterfly Effect. So spoiler warning if you've not seen that, and there is obviously spoilers. Jake, you chose this one. So if you haven't seen the film, basically Ashton Kutcher plays Evan. He realizes that he's got the ability to travel back into his own memories and alter events. So he attempts to do so by changing events from his traumatic childhood. However, every time he does, he returns to the present to find it radically changed. And that's all I'm going to say on the synopsis, because we'll get right into that. Jake, why did you pick it, apart from the fact that we asked you to pick a film?
So I because you finally responded to all my DMs. Yeah. Let me on. I need to tell the world about The Butterfly Effect. So I picked it I don't know when I last watched it, but I've always held this as like such an underrated film. And so I sat down to watch it with my friend, and she also hadn't seen it turns out since she was maybe 15 or so. And I didn't realize how dark it was, the film. It literally has everything. If you can think of anything dark, it's in there.
Oh, God, yeah.
My thought towards it always was that it was a really good film, but their biggest mistake was putting Ashton Kutcher in it, because he makes it seem like it's a bit too sort of light-hearted. But I thought, imagine if you went to somebody a bit more serious, maybe, who wasn't doing Punk'd at the time, that maybe it would have been taken more seriously. And then I watched it last night and I realised that I don't think that's the case. And I think he's actually the best thing in it.
I agree. I think he's really good in it.
Good. Oh, phew.
Yeah. No, I was surprised. Now, so I'd never seen it before. Alice, had you seen it before?
Yes, this was one of those, like, when it came out that I was a little bit obsessed with, and I probably watched it like 8 or 9 times in the space of a couple of weeks. Like, I feel like as a teenager, it was like, whoa, like it's kind of it's a bit sort of mind-bending, and like there's you just didn't see as many, like you say, it's so dark. And dealing with the subject of time travel, which is such a difficult subject to deal with anyway. And I think as a teenager, it just it sort of excites you and it upsets you, but it kind of weirds you out a little bit. So I was really into it when I was younger, but this was like the first time that I'd rewatched it as an adult.
So I'd never seen it before, but I remember it coming out, and I remember exactly what Alice has just said, which is that loads of people in my year at school really loved it and found it really like deep and meaningful. So the 2 films I really remember, all the kind of popular kids, if you like, from school liking, were this and Green Street. And I don't know why. I just remember them really liking them. So that was the only all I knew going into this was Ashton Kutcher was in it, the basic premise, and that it was popular with teenagers when it came out because it's quite angsty. But you are right, it's so dark. It's like A-level drama, the film. Like it goes to so many places.
And there are some bits where the acting is also similar to that.
Yeah.
It's quite some of it's quite on the nose. And I did like my basic research of the film. Obviously I did for this, not back then. I think it was basically the director, 2 people directed it, and it was basically their first feature, and only. So it doesn't seem like they did much more. And one of them has got 7 upcoming projects, which sounds more like the sort of thing he's telling people at dinner parties than actually being the case.
How could you possibly have 7 upcoming? Is it like a origin film for each of the 7 dwarves? Like how they got their name like the MCU, but the 7 dwarves or something like that? No,
that's a really good idea, Josh. I think you should write that down.
Actually, now we're here. Why don't we pitch? No. So, having rewatched it, what did you think in general? Like, did you enjoy it? Did it hold up?
I think it actually does. I think I was probably over-analysing it, and also now watching it for, similar to Alice, probably like the 10th time now. There was bits I'd forgotten. There was bits that sort of stuck. Actually, bits that really stuck with me, which when I was watching it before when I was younger, was, when the guy beats the people up in the cinema. That for some reason, that really affected me. I don't know if it's because it was a child beating up an adult, but I remember thinking, I don't know, for some reason, I thought that was really dark for some reason. It really sort of affected me. I don't know why. Maybe it made cinemas triggering for me for years, but I actually thought that it held up. I was just surprised that Ashton Kutcher turned out was the best thing in it. And I also found out that the film apparently was going around for ages and only got made because Ashton Kutcher jumped on board and was also the executive producer.
Yeah, I read that as well.
Credits. Yeah, that was as well. So I just kind of, you do assume it's like I think we spoke about this before, Josh, but when a film will get in like that big star, like the A-lister, to kind of give it that massive boost. And then usually you find that said A-lister has actually been involved with the production of it because, obviously happy to put their name on it, happy to put the finances in it, believe in it for some reason, or, kind of doing things for kind of these grassroots filmmakers.
It's like Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds, isn't it? Ryan Reynolds was really keen to make the project, and then some footage, in inverted commas, leaked online, and then suddenly it was made 18 months later. So I suppose it shows you the star power, because it is, I suppose when you think about it, now Ashton Kutcher's formed a bit more of a career as an actor, but back then it was probably quite a random move for him to suddenly be going from the guy from Punk'd and that 70s show to this dark drama.
It can't have been far off that 70s show either, could it?
No.
So he really was this sort of becoming this sort of heartthrob. Who was he dating? Was it Mila Kunis? He was Demi Moore.
There's the whole joke for a couple of years that because he was either married to or dating Demi Moore. Now he's married to Mila Kunis, I think. But then I think he was dating Demi Moore, and there was loads of jokes about like Bruce Willis being his dad. Like loads of like
that's
really.
It. Yeah.
But no, I do think he's good in it. I think he's quite an underrated actor. I've not seen him in loads outside of and like rom-coms. He's done like what was the one he did with Natalie Portman? Friends with Benefits, or there's Friends with Benefits, and then there's another one, and they're basically the same film. And one's Justin Timberlake, and one's him.
Yes, I think Just Friends is him, and Friends with Benefit is Justin Timberlake.
But I think there's quite a few good cast members in this. So Ashton Kutcher's good in it. Amy Smart was kind of in loads of stuff for about 5 years, and then doesn't seem to be in anything anymore.
She was instantly brilliant in that film, I thought. As soon as she sort of came on to screen, I was like, I went on IMDb at the time, I was like, who is that? She must be a thing now, because I thought she was brilliant.
The only thing I know her from is did you ever see Rat Race?
Yeah.
She's in that, and she's in a season of Scrubs.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, she was a love interest in Scrubs. But I think because every character in it, because every time he goes back and changes something and comes back to the present, every character kind of has to go through these massive changes. So they do put a lot of demands on, particularly like Ashton Kutcher, Amy Smart, then their 2 friends, or her brother and his friend, who is the guy from Daredevil, Eldon Henson, and Mighty Ducks.
Yes.
But I think they have a lot to do, and I also think it's a rare thing with the performance of Logan Lerman, who is the young version of Evan, who's actually, he gives quite a good child performance.
Yes, I thought it was a really good casting as well.
Yeah, and so I thought it was really good. There wasn't really a weak cast member in it for me. So, and they have, like you said, they have a lot to do, and the script is quite. There's bits that the script's really good. There's also bits where the script's quite cheesy, but they do make a lot of it work.
Yeah, I think the one person I didn't like was his mum. I assume they filmed the scenes when he was a really young boy, right at the start of the film, and then she seemed to get better at acting as the film went on. Because at the start it was inexcusable how bad she was acting. Like there was a bit where she was like fixing the car, I think, to show straight away that like she's also the dad figure, the mother and dad figure. So she's like, which obviously is my thing. Anybody can operate a car, but I think that's what they were trying to do. So because she then takes off her overalls and she's wearing like a pinny, but she talks to the son, but she doesn't break eye contact with him while she gets undressed. And it's absolutely insane. And I realized that I think that the directors must have been so focused on just making the film that they forgot to, I think, direct anybody of how to act. Because there's really odd bits in it. Like, you know, when he goes to see her at the diner and then she says, she turns on him and says, "You left me, why didn't you come back for me then?" If she had turned and walked off, it would have been really effective. But she sort of ran off. And I was like, what? And I was like, unless it's trying to be that she's still a child, it just looked insane that she was running. And then when Ashton Kutcher is running to lock himself in the office to watch the video, he runs for some reason like no one has ever ran in the history of mankind. Not even when we were sort of evolving did anybody run with their arms. Like he was swimming with his arms and running. I was like, it's almost like he was so big, and because he was a producer, also their boss, that they couldn't go, "Can you not do that? It looks mental."
The bit where she runs off at the diner is so weird because they linger on her for what feels like about 20 minutes. There's like this big crane shot where they pull away, and you're like going, "Yeah, no, she's running away. He's probably going to go after it." No.
Yeah. No,
it's
just
not.
her.
He's not. Yeah.
It's just her. There's also one bit where it's clearly Ashton Kutcher's stunt double is driving the car into the diner. And it looks absolutely insane because it's clearly somebody with a wig on, and the angle is too close for them to have used a stunt double. Surely, just get Ashton to drive a car at this point.
So, what did you think from rewatching it, Alice? Did it hold up for you?
You know what? There was so much more that I did sort of appreciate about it this time around, because I was expecting to not like it. Like I was expecting to think like, oh, I just thought this was cool when I was a teenager. I'm probably going to watch it now and realize that it's actually a bit silly. But like you touched on previously, because of how like it gets so dark, like it discusses topics that films would be terrified to discuss normally, like child abuse, animal abuse, like horrific neglect. It's so much of it is just horrendous murder. So I just I felt like a lot of respect for the film for kind of, you know, delving into those topics. And it was all just kind of very real, even though the whole film is about time travel, which is obviously very fantastical. So it's interesting to kind of bring those two in together. And I liked that every time he tried to make things better, that it just got worse. It just it felt like it was saying, like, this is how hopeless life is. It just gets worse. You could try and make it better, but it will just get worse. And that just feels like the absolute opposite of what films are normally trying to do. So I really sort of appreciated that. Something that I did really like and that kind of really enhanced the bleakness of the rest of the film was, you know, the scene. So he goes, I can't remember what he goes back to change, but when he comes back forward, he's at university with Kaylee and everything's lovely. And she's, you know, she's all in pink and the room's pink. And he's, you know, this jock or like frat guy sort of character.
Yeah.
He's got a goatee.
Yeah. That's all great. Like when he's walking down the corridor and all the women are like, "Hi, Evan," and he's like, "What the fuck?" and all this. And watching that kind of softness and all that sort of over the top kind of niceness, it just kind of really enhanced the grim feel of the rest of the film. So that's almost quite a welcome respite, even though it's sort of quite cheesy. And Evan turns out to be a bit of a knob sort of in the end anyway, because of what he's doing to sort of the younger students. But that just kind of was a little bit of relief in what is otherwise sort of quite a heavy watch, really. I think, Josh, you said before that you thought that it was all quite dreamlike, and I think it does a good job at that. And that also kind of really makes it feel quite indie as well. Like you feel like you're watching an indie film for sure. But yeah, those were sort of the main things that I took away from it. I thought the music was great, very thriller.
Yes.
In a lot of places. There's I think it's when they're taking Evan to see his dad. So they take. This was something that I thought was weird. They take Evan to see his criminally insane dad who's been locked up and then put him in a room with him. And they just sat across from a table. And I'm like, hang on a second. Surely there's one of those like foams through a screen sort of thing that you could be doing. That would be a much more kind of responsible way to be approaching this. But in that scene and in that build-up, it's all very like violins, and it really reminded me of the soundtrack from Psycho, which I just kind of, there was obviously a lot going on to really try and convey the kind of feel of the film, I think, like with the sound and the way it looked. Yeah, what do you think?
There's a lot of speaking of the music. There's a lot of great noughties, like Marilyn Manson and like
Jimmy World as well in the
yeah. I was expecting Evanescence, but didn't get it. all that sort of stuff. But that's like you can tell it was made then in that sense with the music. I mean, obviously the clothes and stuff. So yeah, I liked the music. I did think it was good. I think it was generically quite interesting because in the hands of someone else, this concept, this idea of going back and changing things, is obviously a path well trodden. Other films have done it. Other films have done the idea of going back and changing stuff. It could have been a comedy. It could have been, obviously, it's kind of a sci-fi thriller with elements of horror. It could have been an out-and-out horror. So I like that they use different things to keep you guessing. Like you say, there's the scene where it goes back and everything seems to be really good, and then they suddenly hit you with the fact that it's not. Like, I like the fact that a lot of what he changes is centered around her brother, who isn't actually in it that much, and they use him to kind of build tension off screen. Like, he's probably only in it for maybe 10, 15, as an adult, he's probably only in it for about 15 minutes. And it's like, either he's really, really smart and he's doing really well for himself, or he's a complete and utter, burnout and is trying to kill him, basically. And I thought that was really interesting, that way they kind of use him as almost more than a person, more like a metaphor for how things have gone either really well or really badly for him.
But also, like, just showing how, like, kindness and compassion can completely shape a person and sort of completely change their outcomes. Like, because with the son, it was with the brother, sorry. So it was because he saved the woman and her baby from sort of getting blown up or whatever. So then he's treated like a hero. So then he becomes this sort of hero-like figure, like he's, deeply religious, and he's trying to help Evan, and he's so, like, sweet and lovely. And it's just sort of a real case for, if you treat people like humans, like with love and compassion, you're setting them up for a much better end than if you're horrendous to them.
What I found, I think that's very true. I think that he was good at that, because there is one bit, isn't there, where he only protects the daughter and forgets to protect the son when he goes back and speaks to the dad, which I think later on does lead to a slight issue in the story. Which, you remember when he is the frat boy and they're sort of this perfect couple, and they walk along, and for some reason he says to her, "Do you remember your dad having a camera?" And she says, "Yeah, he got rid of it the next day," which I don't think any 4-year-old is going to remember. But anyway, just imagine remembering your dad owned something for a day. But anyway, the problem is, if they are this really happy, perfect couple, then her dad must be fully aware of the time when Evan was 7 and just randomly stood up to him. And now the dad must be absolutely terrified that his daughter is like in a long-term relationship with this guy who, when he was 7, just basically turned on the dad and almost and is fully aware he's a paedophile.
Yeah, it is strange, because also Wood just turning around to a paedophile and being like, "Hey, don't be a paedophile." Yeah. Like, would that work?
What I got from that scene was, because the dad was, I think they're all sort of quite religious, so the dad's wearing a crucifix, and he said, after Evan sort of turns, he says, "Who are you?" So I feel like the dad thinks that Evan is like a demon or is like Satan, and so like he's sort of scared in that way, and that's why what he says.
So apparently, this is when I did my bit of research. You're welcome. Is that so his name in it is it Evan Tegan?
Evan Treborn.
Treborn. So it was supposed to be Event Reborn. And initially in the script he was Chris. So it's going to be Christ Reborn.
Oh.
That's just on the nose, that, isn't it?
That is unbelievable, yeah.
There's also about 3 or 4 alternate endings.
Yes. What ending did you see? So I had the one where he goes back in time to say, like, "Don't ever talk to me again," and then it's sort of
he upsets you. Yeah, I got that one. Yeah,
they're walking down the streets and he turns that way, and then and then that's it. But I know obviously there's one with a kid, and
that's such a such like the fact that someone wrote that, then made it, and someone had to go, "Oh, It's probably a bit
That's probably
dark.
a bit too, yeah, we've covered everything else. So we leave baby suicide out of this.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's I do feel like because of the directors and all the other stuff they put in it and how sort of on the nose it was, I think that I imagine they went with the baby ending and that is what they wanted. And it seems like actually if you look at it, Ashton Kutcher looks the most believable aging in the whole thing is that end bit. Because I feel like they probably filmed it a year later when they finished the edit and they went, well, it turns out that they would not let us do that. Because whatever production company it was, clearly the same production company that made Seven. Because they've just got posters around absolutely everywhere. But I feel like they probably went, no, that's absolutely insane. We'll keep the pedophilia, the suicide, the adult suicide, the heroin addict brothel scene.
Yeah.
We'll keep the
burning dog.
2 funerals, the burning dog, the child stabbing another child in the back of their head with a metal shard. But we'll bargain with you and we'll take out that one, I reckon.
I can imagine, but you can imagine, like, what did you get up to last night? I went to the cinema to see that Butterfly Effect. Was it good? Yeah, but the ending was a bit weird.
Bit bleak.
Yeah.
Especially because Ashton Kutcher, technically, I think ultimately that film what they were trying to make was very serious. But also, for the sake of box office, they're going to want to try and pitch that as a date movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, the ending that we saw is nicer for a date. Like, oh, no matter what, you're supposed to be together. And we believe that they'll meet in a cafe. We'll believe they'll meet again or whatever. But if it's just a baby wrapping an umbilical cord around its own neck. Do you want to go back to mine?
Yeah, you're not going to feel in the mood after that.
Want to go up for a coffee?
But it's that, yeah. But I like the fact that they chose the right ending for me, because it's not that it's a massively happy ending, but it's an ending where everyone ends up not traumatized and it resolves the issues. I suppose for me, the kind of messages of the film is don't try and fix everything for everyone. Try and do the best thing, I guess. So he does the selfless thing and takes her away from him. And that's what ultimately makes her happy, rather than, he can still have his life and go on and maybe meet her at another time or fall in love with someone else. But he didn't, that's much better than he killed himself. In the way, like,
yes, definitely. I mean, it's hard to argue that. What? Have you prayed for me eyes to go? No, I reckon he should have just ended it, and then had the mum had to deal with that with the doctor. Just a scene where the doctor explains to her what has happened inside her own stomach. It's absolutely insane. It's so dark that I can't. I feel sorry for anybody who saw the film and then had to live with the fact
they
that
watched that ending.
Shown. Yeah. If you got the DVD and went, should we go over the actual cut or the director's cut? And you didn't realise that the 2 directors were absolute mentalists, then you...
was there anything you kind of saw that you didn't like watching it again, Jake?
Yeah, some of the acting. Some of it was a bit on the nose. Like there was, the bit where he loses his arms because for the explosion. And then there's just one line in it where he's like, he actually wheels off at the end. And he sort of goes, "My mum would have never taken up smoking if I still had my arms." like that's what did it like to her. Just like it just seems such a GCSE of why people smoke.
It is proper GCSE, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought that was way too much. And actually, when he goes and sees his friend, and his friend is in the asylum because he stabbed the guy with the metal shard. Lovely sentence. It's that's very GCSE drama where he's going, I don't know, he sort of goes to go at him or something, or he sort of says to him, did you do it on? But that seemed a bit too, I can imagine sat there at the side of like the stage,
I know what you mean.
Having to watch my friends do that. And
it's kind of cheesy, isn't it? It's a little bit cheesy, a little bit contrived in places. I like, there's a line I remember kind of, it's not a funny line, and I laughed because he says something to Kaylee, like, you have no idea how beautiful you are you? And I kind of went, like that's like, what a line that is.
Yeah, it's almost like he has to say something nice for them to kiss. What can he say? just this default line from any rom-com.
Yeah. Like the rom-com line randomizer. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To say. What about you, Alice? Was there anything you kind of noticed?
Would definitely agree about some of the script and some of the performance issues. There were just some moments as well that I was just like, in a time travel film where I was like, that would never happen. But things like when the teacher calls the mum in to come and discuss the pictures that Evan has drawn.
Yeah.
And they're having this conversation in front of a classroom full of kids. Like Evan's in there, I think, and stuff. And it's like, go to an office, go to a staff room. Like, don't stop. And then just showing the pictures of like these murdered bodies and blood and stuff that he's drawn, and just like, look at these, all these like 4-year-olds or whatever. It's like, look. Yeah. Like, so just that. And then just like I mentioned before, like letting the kid go in, with his criminally insane father, and there not being really any protection there. Just like little things like that. But I feel like they've given themselves a huge task, haven't they? Because they've got to kind of sort out all these different lines of action. And every time you go to a new one, the character has experienced different things, so they've got to act in a different way. So I feel like it was maybe very ambitious, and in that, some of the writing and that got a bit lost. Something that I always thought was a bit odd as well. So obviously in this sort of nicer reality where Evan and Kaylee are in university together, but he's not a good guy in that. Like, he's not like the dickheads who he would usually avoid are now his friends, and they're not nice to his mate, who's his big old mate who he shares a room with, and that.
Oh, Ethan Suplee.
Yeah.
He was like in everything around that time. Then I think he was in My Name is Earl.
Yeah.
Lots of.
And I saw him the other day in Motherless Brooklyn. I think he was in that.
And he's buff now.
Oh, maybe that wasn't him then.
He's lost loads. He's lost loads of weight. Like, he's buff now. Yeah. So obviously he was a big guy. You mean his guy who's like the big goth guy?
Yeah.
So he's like, what's his name?
Ethan Suplee. I know he was he's definitely in like Mallrats, and I think he might be in the early Kevin Smith films.
Yes, he was in Marvelous Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I watched that the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's lost loads of weight. I know that much.
Yeah, he looks much better, doesn't he? Was he in Blow?
I think he was with Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was in that. Yeah.
I will say the film's quite of its. You couldn't make it now, because I did realise that if they made it now, it would just be him waking up in that bed, opening up Facebook, seeing what they're up to, and then just deciding whether to go back or not.
Yeah. It's very of its time, isn't it? Even in the way, in the plot, but also like the way it looks. Like, there's lots of great long sleeve shirts under short sleeve shirts, and like you're right. If it was made now, it would just be like, wonder what they're up to on Instagram. Oh,
yeah, quick, right back into it.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. It would have to be what they'd have to do. They'd have to set up something early where one of the first things he does means that the internet no longer exists.
Yeah.
Or he just goes to university.
Don't get invented.
Yeah, just him a random scene of him killing Mark Zuckerberg, and then just carries on like nothing ever happens.
I think if it was made now, actually, that it would be one event. So instead of it being loads of little events, I think it'd be one thing, and it'd be him trying to change that one traumatic thing, rather than, like, I suppose there is an element of like, we'll pick an issue. Like, what is it? Is the paedophile dad? Is it the burning dog? Is it the fact that his dad has got problems? Like, what? Pick that issue, and then
is it the blowing up of the mother and her newborn child, which we haven't even discussed yet in our list of?
Is it that bit? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is proper. It is quite A-level drama, isn't it? Apart from if people started walking around Ashton Kutcher in a circle, repeating the same phrase, and then have him scream whilst they threw red ribbon in the air. Regret. Shame. So we'll come on to talk about the critical reception then. Did either of you get a chance to look at it, or do you want to have a guess at how it did generally?
So I've avoided it, so you can surprise me, but I will give a guess. But what about you, Jake? Did you see that?
I didn't see it. I was quite surprised to see that it had quite a high score on IMDb, which I was really impressed. I was certainly not expecting it to be even at 6. I think it was actually 7.6 out of 10, which is really good, I'd say. I haven't seen the Rotten Tomatoes, or I imagine the critics were quite brutal with it. I'd have thought.
Well, that's pretty much bang on. Yeah, so you're right. The IMDb is 7.6 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, the audience give it 81%.
Wow.
But the critics give it 33%.
Oh, that's me.
Definitely one of those films that obviously really entertains the audience, and the audience who like it really like it. But perhaps the critics didn't do it. But I tried to find from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes, like what good stuff they could say about it. Because obviously you're right, they did pan it. There was a lot of it's sloppy, it's clunky, it's preposterous, it's too gruesome, it's too dark, it's a bit of a mess. But then some people said things like it is trashy, but it's entertaining, and it's there, it entertains you for a reason. And then another person, it's all the same sort of stuff. It's flawed, but it's a serviceable thriller, that kind of thing. So, I mean, what do you think? Would you agree with how would you rate it in terms of, is it accurate in terms of what the audience have given it? Is it a bit in between?
I think that actually I do recall. Sorry, looking at the directors, I think one of them maybe did a Final Destination film. I think one of them did, yeah. But other than that, they've basically done nothing, which is surprising, actually, because around that time, you think that, especially with such a high Rotten Tomatoes score, clearly the audience has just liked it. And you're right, because the reviewers, I think, forget to review films for what they are, rather than comparing them to every film to sort of like Schindler's List or something, where actually it is exactly that. It's a serviceable film. That's a thriller. I reckon its biggest downfall was that it tried to do too much.
Very ambitious, very ambitious. I think as well the audience probably liked it because we can all relate to wanting to go back and change something. Like I don't know how many anxious nights I've spent hours awake just thinking, oh my God, why did I do this? Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And, to be able to go back and change things, I'm sure that's something we can all relate to wanting to do. But it's good that it shows that if you try and do that, you will fuck it up even more. So maybe the fact that we can't time travel is a blessing.
No, I agree. I think so. If we take, obviously we kind of go off critical reception. So if we go off critical reception of 33%, I'd say that's way too low for me. I'd say it's definitely underrated, because I think I agree with both of you. I think it's a good thriller. It definitely overstretches itself in what it tries to do, and some of the script's a little bit clunky, but it's definitely there to entertain. And I was entertained. I also would have been interested, if I could, talking about time traveling. I'd like to have watched it when it came out, because watching it now at my age, I think it's definitely aimed at people that were my age when it came out, like 17, 18. I think if I watched it then, I'd have loved it. But no, I agree. I think 33% is way too low.
Oh, yeah, terribly harsh. And I feel like that just ignores all the hard work that you can see that has gone into it, because it's not a complete disaster. Like, technically, there are some great things, like some of the sort of Foley sounds and that, like of when he's doing the time travel, and you can sort of hear his skull cracking, and it's like, oh, you just feel it so hard.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of that, a lot of good sort of nice sounds just to kind of really emphasize things. But 38, I feel, is terribly hard.
33.
33, sorry.
You give it 5%.
Wow.
So there you go. Another one for the underrated pile. Jake, thanks so much for coming on, man. I hope you had a good time.
No, thank you so much for having me. And lovely thing. I can't remember, there was two films I was going to think. I can't remember what the first one I initially thought of was, but then I remembered that a while ago somebody tweeted something to say what is the most underrated film, and I quote retweeted it and said The Butterfly Effect, and it got such a good response of people agreeing. And funnily enough, I don't know, I certainly didn't read reviews or anything back then. It's like I didn't really understand what they were, and now I sort of only listen to like Mark Kermode. But I just knew that it was underrated, and I just knew the critics would have hated it. I think all you have to do is understand who a critic is, and you would know they're going to hate that film. And I think, like I said, I always thought its biggest downfall was having Ashton Kutcher in it, because he just wasn't. He was cool in that way for the audience and stuff, but he wasn't cool for critics. But so I feel like I'm glad that it. I don't know. I'm very happy with my choice, and it was good to come on and talk about it and clear the air and get it out there to Ashton if he's listening.
I reckon any critic going into an Ashton Kutcher film is prepared to not be impressed. I feel like you would just have that, dude, where's my car, guy from that 70s show sort of thing. And then people wouldn't take him as seriously. But I mean, he was good. He didn't act bad. Like, I wasn't not convinced by him. And I think he did a pretty good job of him.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's. And there is a sequel, isn't there?
There's 2.
Oh my god!
Butterfly Effect 2 and 3, I think.
Have you seen the? Oh man, I haven't seen the sequels.
If this is the level of dark it's starting from, I don't know if I can cope with a 2 and a 3. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not coming back on to defend the Butterfly Effect 3.
So Jake, thank you very much for coming on, man. What do we look out for next? What have you got on?
I would recommend delving into the Butterfly Effect universe and try
the BEU.
Yeah. I've got a podcast coming out. I've got a podcast called Guest List, which is where I invite comedians to come on and they pick their perfect dinner guests. They have to pick 3. One has to be alive, one has to be dead, and one has to be fictional. As soon as that trailer appears, then people can subscribe. But at the minute, that doesn't exist anywhere apart from in my mind.
Well, we'll certainly point people in the direction of it when it comes out. So
That's
keep
very
an
kind of you.
Keep an eye on the social media for that. Jake Lambert, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And it was lovely to meet you both. And I can come on another time and do the sequels. I think we should go for it.
What if
people want it?
So there we go, Jake Lambert, everybody. What a top guest. I mean, he was a right laugh.
Oh yeah, which was hard when talking about the Butterfly Effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, honestly, if you don't already follow him on Twitter and Instagram, go and check him out. You can find him with his name. If not, he's at Little Lost Lad. He's one of my favorite Twitter accounts. It's properly funny stuff. Properly funny. So we'll have another episode for you next week. In the meantime, if you'd like to get in touch with us, it's filmsandthatpod@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of the Butterfly Effect. If you've got a film you want us to do, then get in touch. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. We're also on Twitter @films_that, Facebook and Instagram, filmsandthatpod. Alice Oliver, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you so much as always, Josh. Great to be here.
And it's goodbye from me. Cheerio.
Bye.
You've been waiting all year, and the moment is finally here. Boll & Branch is the bedding brand for better sleep, and their best sale of the year is happening now. Right now, you can get 25% off the organic cotton sheets loved by millions of sleepers. They feel breathable, luxuriously soft, and get softer with every wash. Shop Boll & Branch's cyber event with extended returns for the holiday season. Hurry to bollandbranch.com and use code BUTTERY for 25% off everything. Limited time only. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic famous foods from restaurants across the country anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.